Welcome to the Dean Obeidallah Show. Right now, join us, Miles Taylor, a national security expert and #1 New York Times bestselling author, truly a fighter for democracy since 2018 when he went anonymous, working inside the Trump regime. And now he's co-founder of defianceorg.org. They have a big event countering the State of the Union tomorrow night, which we'll talk about. But first, Miles, it's nice to directly speak to you. Usually I've been on with you. There's a host in between. And there'll be the host like, Dean, what do you think? Miles, what do you think? So this is the first time we've actually communicated directly.
Dean, that's the beauty of new media is we're taking the middleman out. We're just going straight to the source. You're going to get mainlined truth today, friends.
I like it, folks. Everyone calm down. A lot of people here. Dawn and Susan, welcome aboard. All right, so here we go. First of all, you worked in the government. Kash Patel shows up at the Olympics using our private jet with a cover story of why he's there. Look, if he just sat in the audience and then shook some hands or something, that's one thing. He's in the locker room partying like he is part of the team. He's drinking beer, singing, the Toby Keith songs, wearing a gold medal like he did anything, throwing beer all over. And there was something that is so wrong for the head of the FBI, and you worked in the government. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I mean, we knew that they were turning the federal government into a mafia. Right. And using it to extort the American people and steal from the American people. We knew that. We did not know until now that they're turning it into a frat party. And that's what we saw. Look, I'm less worried about the use of the jet, and I'm just going to be honest about that. I've been inside of government. Usually when the head of an agency is traveling that has national security responsibilities, they got to be in a special jet. I don't care if you love or hate the FBI director. You really actually don't want your FBI director flying commercial, especially if there's a crisis and they can't get back and you're dependent on Southwest Airlines. All right, I get that. That's why you have to be judicious about the types of events you go to because you know you're going to be using government aircraft. And this seemed very dubious about why he was going. But put all of those things aside. Our FBI director binging beer on television is disgusting and it's inappropriate and it's fireable. That's it. Full stop. Don't care who you are. Again, don't care if you love or hate the guy. That's not acceptable. It's not acceptable. You're in charge of what's supposed to be the premier law enforcement agency in the United States. We want you on the clock, not binging with a bunch of athletes.
Yeah. And look, I mean, I understand too, because there were some clips today about Patel in 2023 slamming Christopher Wray for taking the private jet for a family vacation. I really, look, I might say that's wrong, but at the same time, I don't think the FBI director traveling commercial with a family is the best idea for security. This is far different. So first of all, he's hypocritical, which we only call out for our sanity because hypocrisy doesn't matter to the shameless. You can't shame them. So but Kash Patel will remind people, he flew in the government jet to Scotland for a getaway at a golf resort. He's taken it to a private hunting ranch in Texas, to a wrestling match in State College, Pennsylvania, to watch his girlfriend perform. And again, I know that some of it's hard for an FBI director to go on a commercial jet, but you're going to use it like this so many times in 1 year. He was not even confirmed a year ago. I think it comes from the top, where Trump doesn't matter. Corruption is fine. Use the government like it's your personal property because we don't work for the people. We work for Donald Trump. And if the boss says it's okay, you do whatever you want. That's to me what it's about, a culture of corruption.
I also think, I'm gonna be honest with you, Dean, I don't think this is sitting well with Donald Trump.
Really?
For all of his many, many flaws, he's a teetotaler. And I remember anytime there was anything related to weirdness and alcohol in the first administration, he didn't like it. He did not like it. He did not like events where he found out people were getting drunk. He didn't like his staff acting inappropriately around booze. Again, a lot of irony there, a lot of inappropriate stuff Donald Trump has done, but it's like his one little thing. And I got to think of all the things he's excused from his cabinet members, he probably really didn't like the image of one of them binge drinking basically on the taxpayer dime. It's the type of thing that bugs him. He lost a family member to alcoholism. He's very sensitive to it. I think this was an error for a lot of reasons, but especially for a guy and a cabinet that's so focused on slavishly pleasing their boss. This was a stupid thing to do.
That's interesting to say, to look at it that way. And I'm sure you know Mary Trump, and I'm good friends with Mary Trump, and that was her father, who had the alcohol problem and then ultimately died connection to alcoholism. And that's what made Donald stop drinking. So it's interesting you look at that way. Look, when you look at Trump from first term, and you were there seeing lawlessness to the point where you did a famous op-ed being anonymous and giving up your career essentially in the government to do that. This second term, What can you share? Like, what is I know it's more alarming, but what is most alarming to you?
Yeah. Um, I would say it's this. It is the absolute and complete systematic abuse of power across every federal agency to advance the president's personal self interest. I say that with zero hyperbole, zero facetiousness. It is very true. Every single agency where Donald Trump has the opportunity to advance his personal self interest instead of the national interest, he is now doing that. Why is that different than the first term? Look, I'm not trying to pump up unelected bureaucrats like me. I'm totally okay with it. If anyone watching here was like, you self important unelected bureaucrats that said you were protecting us from Donald Trump, you can have that opinion. But I want you right now to compare what you got today
Right.
versus what you had even in the worst year of the first Trump administration. Because there were throughout his administration a lot of people who didn't know Donald Trump, who were lifelong Republicans who, like me, had worked in Washington, worked for Bush, were really focused on a pretty mainstream conservative agenda, who got swept into that administration and who said, whoa, whoa, hey, time out. I didn't agree to go to prison for this guy. I
Right.
didn't agree to do that. And I have zero interest in it. Now he has deliberately recruited people who are willing to go to prison for him and beyond. They have shown a willingness to do that. Why? Because they're breaking the law every goddamn week. And you see them doing that. You see them willingly breaking the law for the man. I was willing to implement conservative policies that some people didn't like because I'm a conservative, not a
Right.
Republican anymore. I wasn't willing to go to jail for this psychopath. And he had enough people in the first administration say to him, no, 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 I won't do that. I won't do that because he was so regularly inclined toward illegality. You had to be prepared to say no to the White House all the time. Those people are gone. I don't know of anyone in this administration that is saying no to the president. You have an administration that definitionally is the most lawless administration in American history. You don't have to take that from Miles Taylor. Statistically, Donald Trump has had more federal judges ruling against him in his first year back in office than anyone who's ever been in that office. We are talking about not dozens, not hundreds, Dean, thousands of federal judges that have ruled this administration has broken the law, from individuals it has illegally detained
Hmm.
to violations of the First, Second, Fourth, 10th, 14th Amendments to the United States Constitution, sweeping rulings. And the person who's on here, if there's one person on here who says, those are activist liberal judges, I'll tell you they're wrong. Some of the judges we got confirmed to the bench in the first Trump administration are those judges ruling against this man. He has
Yeah.
been the biggest violator of the Constitution that has sat in the Oval Office. That is why the second term is different than the first.
That I think that's such a great point. I interviewed former Watergate prosecutor Jill Wine-Banks. I'm sure you probably know Jill. She was on my show
Just
Friday,
great.
and we talked about the tariff ruling, but how Richard Nixon had more respect for the Supreme Court and the decisions. As much as he may have disliked them, he didn't attack the court. He didn't suggest investigations into justice, which Trump did, there's foreign influence, or call them
Mhm.
unpatriotic and all that. He adhered to them. Well, Donald Trump's the opposite. And the thing is, John Mitchell, former attorney general under Nixon, goes to jail. Trump will pardon everybody when he's leaving. Do you have any doubt that when he's leaving, everybody gets pardoned for their wrongdoing? What do you think?
Maybe, maybe. This is what I would compare it to. I go back to the mafia comparison because we, all throughout history, have seen mob bosses whose power inside their inner circle depends on keeping their staff on edge. What do I mean by that? If you're working for a mafia boss, you always want to please that boss because you know if you don't please that boss, you're going to get killed or kicked out of the tribe. And if you get kicked out of the tribe, you're probably going to get killed. Donald Trump knows, and I know this from the first term, he knows that keeping his team on edge about whether he's going to keep them in the administration, elevate them to new positions, or protect them after the fact is his power. And so you see people who are hanging on in this administration, doing things they might not otherwise do because they're already in too deep. It is no more complicated than a crime saga and a mob movie. Is they're in too deep and they have to keep doing what he wants because they've already broken the law for him. Many of them have actually
Mm,
visibly broken the law for him. They have to keep doing that if they want that pardon, if they want to be protected, if they want his big apparatus of money and industry to come get them after the administration. But here's the thing, Dean. Here's what all of those people need to know. He cannot protect you. He cannot protect you. He might be able to offer pardons, but a lot of you in his administration are being told to go commit crimes that violate state law. There's nothing he can do to pardon you from those crimes. Get out now while you can. Save your ass. Again, this is a mob movie and a crime saga, and those people who survive are the ones who blow the whistle, who go work for the authorities and take down the crime family. That's what people need to do right now. And I am encouraged to say, Dean, this is not a fantasy. This is happening. There are whistleblowers coming forward to reveal the constitutional violations of this administration. Our organization, defiance.org, helps support a couple of those organizations. We have been paying for lawyers for people who blow the whistle inside of government. In fact, you probably saw last month that 2 people inside of ICE came forward and disclosed that the agency is training agents to violate the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution, to kick down doors, to go into people's homes without a warrant. Those 2 whistleblowers were represented by the lawyers that we help fund over at Whistleblower Aid. Those are the types of things people can do right now to have the backs of federal employees who say, enough is enough, I'm going to call this out, rather than remain complicit and hope they'll be protected by this lawless president.
First of all, that's great work that you did. We covered that a lot on my show and wrote about it. And the other thing for the people who are in the Trump regime, and something that Glenn Kirshner, a mutual friend of ours, my buddy, we've talked about at length because I'm a lawyer as well as Glenn. These guys will get disbarred. So many Trump lawyers got disbarred. Giuliani, the list goes on. They're going to be disbarred when they leave. No pardon will protect them from disbarment. Their career's over. Unless they get hired by Fox News, good luck making a living. I don't know what you're going to be, a disbarred lobbyist. I guess that's the only thing.
It's not a hard decision, Dean. I'm going to take you into the moment. I faced this decision a bunch of times in the first administration. It's why I quit in protest, is because the pace of illegal asks from the White House, I don't just mean asks you disagree with or things that, I mean, asks that would have broken the law, got so ridiculous, I couldn't stay. And I remember being down at the southern border, and the president wanted us to do something. I won't get into the policy nuance, but he basically wanted us to shut down entirely the southern border in a way that would have violated the law, violated asylum laws. And we said to him for probably the 6th time, Mr. President, we cannot do that. It would break the law. And he said, exactly verbatim, if you go to jail, I will pardon you. If you go to jail, I will pardon you. I have never in my life witnessed a more concise moment of human corruption ever than the most powerful man in the world looking at me and saying, if you go to jail, I will pardon you. That is some scary shit for democracy, my friend. That is not okay. And after that happened, it was clear to me, all right, I've got to get out of here, but not just get out of here. I've got to get out here and scream as loud as I can. Maybe y'all won't listen to me, but I need to scream as loud as I can that this is what is happening. If this man wins a second term, he will have people who are willing to break the law for him because they expect he'll give them that pardon. Why? Because he's promised it to people before I was there.
That's remarkable. I'm glad you shared that. And he said that in the first term. It's kind of remarkable he didn't pardon a lot more people leaving, like all the January 6ers. He had to wait till the second time to come in. Look, I want to get you, since you are actually from the world of republicanism, you've changed now. You're not a Republican, but you understand it. Look, and I'm Muslim. In 2012, 2011, I dealt with so much with anti-Sharia law and Muslim imposed Islamic law. It was all bullshit then, right? And that was gone. Yep. Now it's back. And I talked to other Muslim leaders, and I warned everyone, they're going to come back to us because we're an easy target. People have marinated anti-Muslim stew for a long time. But do you have any sense why this pivot back in the heart? They have the anti-Sharia law caucus in Congress now. It's only like 30 members. But in Texas and Florida, they are trying to ban CARE, which is a civil rights organization that helps Muslim Americans, been around for decades, to bar them because they've been effective. And next, we might see them even try to ban Muslims. I mean, I don't know where this is going, but any sense why the pivot back?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to sound overly simplistic, but it is my honest to goodness answer, is at the core of all of this, Donald Trump has created a permission structure for bigotry. He has said from the upper echelons of the Republican Party down to the grassroots, it's okay to hate people for who they are. In fact, it's not just okay. We encourage you to organize around it. And if you don't believe me, if you don't think that the party I was once a part of is being fully corrupted and rotted from the core out, just look at the surveys out of things like CPAC, right, which is the Conservative Political Action Conference. At the most recent CPAC, it was surveyed that almost a third of attendees were followers of Nick Fuentes, the Nick Fuentes that embraces Nazi ideology and Nazism. And you have Republicans around this country that know that's bad. And they say, no, Nick Fuentes is on the fringe. He is not the fringe anymore. Masses of these young conservatives who are going to these conferences, that is who they're following now. And I will tell you, when I was a young Republican coming up in Washington during the Bush administration, I worked in the Bush White House. I worked in multiple Bush departments and agencies. If any of us were parroting white nationalist rhetoric and engaged in things like Nick Fuentes, you'd have been fired immediately and you'd have been toast in the party.
Right.
And that's not to say like Bush was perfect for people. Yeah. I get that folks on the left hated things that Bush did. You did stuff like that. If you embraced people like that, you were done, man. Your career was over. Now it's the opposite. Now it's the pathway to advancement. And I will tell you, Dean, I went into the first administration very naively thinking that Donald Trump in his heart of hearts probably was not a bigot. And because on the Republican right, that gets thrown out there a lot. People say,
Right.
Republicans
Sure.
are bigots. I remember how deeply it affected George W. Bush when Kanye West said, George W. Bush hates black people. In fact, he wrote about a whole chapter about it in his book because he was like, I hated that. He's like, of course I don't have an innate bigotry. And it rocked him. And so Republicans get that a lot. So I thought, they just attacked Donald Trump that way. But I bet he's very, liberal on LGBTQ and other things like that in private.
Right.
Then I started to have some meetings with the guy, Dean. And I will never forget walking out of a meeting in the Oval Office where the president described to us in detail the countries where he wanted us to turn off the spigot, his words, turn off the spigot of immigration. And they were countries like Somalia and Haiti and Ethiopia. And as the list went on, there were some similarities between those countries. And then in the same meeting, he listed off the countries where he wanted to increase immigration into the United States. Ready for him, Dean? Denmark, Finland, Iceland, Norway, Sweden. I want you just to imagine in your head, what kind of people do you see in Somalia and Eritrea and Ethiopia? What kind of people do you see in Denmark, Finland, Iceland, Norway, and Sweden? He didn't want brown and black people coming into this country. He wanted rich white people coming into this country. I walked out of that meeting and I said to one of my colleagues, yeah, I was wrong. It could not have been plainer than that. He's telling us to bring rich whites in and he's telling us to keep black and brown people out. People need to know that. The man is a bigot in his heart of hearts. He has set that node from the top and it's corrupted the entirety of the Republican Party.
There's no doubt. I mean, look at the groups he wants to bring in are white South Africans. Like those are the Africans they want. And look, I mean, I think that when you look at this administration now, does Stephen Miller, do you get a sense have more of an influence the second term than the first?
Yes.
And is it meaningful?
Yeah. It's extremely meaningful. Stephen is the most consequential figure inside the administration besides Donald Trump. And in the first term, he had a lot of cabinet secretaries that were pissed off that he was always trying to meddle in their business. I would get 6 to 8 phone calls from Stephen a day. And, when John Kelly, the first month I was in the administration, I remember John Kelly heard that Stephen had been making phone calls in the department to try to micromanage things DHS was doing. And he came into the meeting, he banged his fist on the table and he said, I am the only person in this room confirmed by the United States Senate to run the Department of Homeland Security. If you get an order from the White House and it's not from the president, it's not an order from the White House. And if you get an order from the president, it should come through me and not through you. The chain of command is the president and then me. So if Stephen Miller or anyone else is telling you to do things, you hang up the phone and you come to me and I will sort it out with the president of the United States. That was not unique to John Kelly. Other cabinet members were saying, I will not let my agency be micromanaged by this little staffer clown from Capitol Hill. I'm not going to let that happen. Second term, totally different. Every single one of these cabinet secretaries takes their marching orders from Stephen Miller. They proudly praise him. People like Marco Rubio, who I will tell you from firsthand experience used to talk shit about Stephen Miller in private, are now glowing about him in public. People like Kristi Noem are doing whatever he says. This administration is Donald Trump and Stephen Miller's administration. J.D. Vance is an afterthought.
Yeah, J.D. Vance, we just see him out there here and there. And I think it's interesting the use of his term. I've heard him say things like, well, my policy on immigration might be different than Donald Trump's. I heard him say that once. And I'm like, well, that's weird that you're a vice president. You have a different policy than the president. So I think he's positioning for the future. But all right, I want to get to the big event for defiance.org and your organization. But tomorrow night's the State of the Union. If you're looking at our State of the Union, Miles, what do you give it? How do you look at our State of the Union?
I have a very specific and evocative answer for you, I hope. There is a reason why we are calling our event tomorrow night the State of the Swamp, the rebuttal to the State of the Union. It's a little bit facetious, but the reason is because Donald Trump came to this town. He came to Washington, D.C., pledging to drain the swamp. By that, he meant He said people in Washington were grifters. They were stealing from the American people. They were abusing their power to take advantage of the American people. And he was going to drain that swamp. Instead, what Donald Trump has done is not just make DC swampier, he has turned America into his swamp. He is grifting to the tune of billions of dollars from taxpayers. He's literally stealing billions of dollars from American taxpayers. He's allowing his cronies to do the same. He's embracing his buddies who are corporate leaders to take over, and he's weaponizing the powers of his office in unprecedented ways, as we've already talked about, to oppress the American people. He has turned the entirety of America into a swamp, and so that's why we're calling this the state of the swamp. It's also why we've invited the Portland Frog Brigade, the people you've seen protesting in frog suits at ICE facilities, to be partners in the event, because who better to help us navigate our country if it's become a swamp is frogs who live in a swamp. And part of that is again, using absurdity and humor to highlight the insanity. But part of it is to show a core truth here, Dean, is that the state of our union is that it has become a swamp under this man. And that means there have been severe and continuing violations of the United States Constitution that are meant to prevent that type of epic corruption. So that's what we're going to be talking about. We got all kinds of folks coming. This is going to be at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. We are a sold out in-person event, but it will be live streamed for free nationwide. Anyone can watch this. Just go to defiance.org. You can sign up for free right now. You can watch it. You'll get the email when it goes live, 7 p.m. Eastern to 11 p.m. Eastern. Robert De Niro is headlining. I just read his remarks. They are going to be fire. Mayor Jacob Fry from Minneapolis, the mayor who stood up to Trump and pushed him out of his city, told ICE to get the F out. He is going to be headlining. The mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, who did the same, he will also be a headliner at the event. We've got Mark Ruffalo. We've got Stacey Abrams. We've got a whole list of folks that are going to be there. Really encourage folks to join. And you know what? When it comes time for Trump to take the stage, he'll take the stage about 9 p.m. over in the U.S. House of Representatives. We're not going to stop to listen to him. We're going to keep talking. And I'm happy to break a little news here for you, Dean. Trump's former press secretary, Stephanie Grisham, will speak while he's speaking. It will be the first time in American history a press secretary of a former president has left and gone and actively rebutted him during his own State of the Union. And I got one more thing for you, Dean. Because so many Democrats are boycotting the State of the Union, we now believe we will have more people on our rebuttal floor at the National Press Club than Donald Trump will have in front of him on the House floor. So he is going to be pissed that we have a bigger crowd size than he has got. So I urge people to tune in to watch that. Like I said, in-person tickets are sold out, but the live stream free and available around the country. There are paid ticket packages if people want. That goes towards paying for the cost of the event and paying for 2 special activations that will happen that day. And one of them is that tomorrow morning, we will send dozens of frogs to Capitol Hill who will blow up in their frog suits, and they're going to every single Republican member of Congress's office and personally delivering pocket constitutions with a note on them. You want to know what that note says, Dean?
What does it say?
That little paper-clipped note says, "You swore an oath to this, not to a man. Remember that when you see him tonight." That's going to be delivered to every Republican member of Congress's office by a blowed up Portland Frog. So watch that. We'll live stream that too tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. Eastern if you want to tune in. I can't promise you the connection's going to be great on Capitol Hill, but we're going to try to show you these frogs delivering these constitutions. Anyone who buys a paid ticket to the event helps us fund that activation and some other cool things that we're going to do that day. But more important than any of this, Dean, that whole event tomorrow night is going to focus on what can I do to push back against Trump's abuse of power. You're sick of just talking about it. I'm sick of just talking about it. All we do is navel gaze and doom scroll all day long. No, none of that. This event is going to be about what can we actively do to protect the rule of law in this country, to defend the Constitution, and to make sure that the country that we all used to love is still there at the back end of all of this.
And again, the sign up is defiance.org. Just like Miles' hat, if you're reading it right now, you can sign up. It's free. I love the idea of the frog. So in frog suits, when you say blow up, I want you to be very clear what you mean by that. So that
big puffy ones.
Oh, so they're gonna be puffy. Okay, so they're gonna walk around. Are they gonna get in? Are you confident they'll get into like Longworth and all the Rayburn and everything like that? So they're gonna walk around the building dressed like frogs. I think this is great. And handing out the constitutions. Do you have special? Are they all from the Portland Frog organization that are doing this?
Most of them are, but we've got a bunch of other volunteers that are helping out. And we've just had amazing people in our community donate to have these constitutions delivered. So We started talking about this a couple of weeks ago, a couple months ago with folks in the Defiance.org community. And we said, hey, we have this great idea. We didn't tie it to the State of the Union, but we said we want to go deliver these constitutions. And so we had literally thousands of people donate to buy all of these pocket constitutions. And then people who bought tickets for the event have helped contribute to that. And then we decided very recently, let's make the delivery day Constitution Day. What better day to tell these members of Congress they're going to see the president that night on the House floor, that they need to obey this document and not that man. We think that's an important message to send. It's not just a gimmick. I mean, it's a lot of these people, I'll tell you, I mean, from having spent so much time in the Republican Party, I used to be down there on the House floor every day during votes with these Republican members of Congress. They know in their consciences
Right.
that what they're doing is wrong. So many of them would go talk about that during votes on the House floor. You hear Democratic members dime out their Republican colleagues all the time now. They're like, you hear these people come down to the House floor to vote and they say, yeah, the guy's crazy. I know he's crazy, but, we'll just get past it. They know what's happening is wrong. They're just scared little cowards to come forward. But I will say, my message to them is, once a coward does not always mean a coward. It is never too late to do the right thing. Take it from a guy who spent 2 years as anonymous. It is never too late to do the right thing, to come forward in your own name. Is it scary at first? You bet. It's scary at first. Anyone who's ever spoken out will tell you, I ain't some hero for speaking out. It was hard. I was scared. But once you did it, the weight will lift off your shoulders and no one will ever be able to hold anything over you ever again. That is what I tell former Republican colleagues who are thinking about speaking out. I do it all the time. And you know what? Some of them have come forward.
That is great stuff. It's like a cross between a Christmas Carol and an infomercial talking about this stuff. Like it's like, it's not too late. Plus, act now. But wait, there's more. There's a constitution in a frog suit. Like, I think it's great. So it's a lot.
Look, man, I'm not going to stop. Every single incentive here weighs
I think it's
against
great, brother.
speaking out. Is like, when me and my wife were targeted last year, the president issued an executive order on April 9th last year directing a federal investigation into me for First Amendment protected speech, for criticizing him. I will tell you, we didn't immediately decide to fight back. We had fought a lot of fights a couple years ago. It had blown up my life. And everyone in our life was saying, please do not punch back. Not because they didn't want us to stand up for ourselves, because they were scared we would get more grief from the administration.
Right.
And that also the attention would spread to friends and family members and colleagues, that the administration would go after them. And so people wanted us to lay low. And you know what? My wife, to her credit, spine of steel, her name is Hannah. 2 months after that order, one day she just said to me, what are we doing? Why are we thinking about just laying low? This is wrong. This guy is bad. And if we just take it, it's going to mean more people get hurt. Screw that. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's like total moral clarity. Hannah's right. No other debate. Settled. We're going to go fight this. We're going to go countersue, and we're going to stay out there and fight this administration until this guy's gone. That has meant putting off a lot of opportunities for us to make money, preserve our family, grow our family. That's okay. We're going to do this for a couple of years to make sure that we are all in. And when it's over, I can go focus on starting a business again. I can go focus on the other things I actually want to be doing with my life. But the thing I'll leave you with, Dean, is this. We have been spending too much time as a country doing what I did those 2 months after the EO dropped, which is, again, doom scrolling, navel gazing, doing woe is me. This is sad. Our lives have been ruined. We're sad that this guy take over. Enough whining, people. I'm done whining. You should be honored, and you should feel honored that you get to fight for the principles of the freest nation that's ever been seen on this earth. Doesn't feel free right now, but it is a privilege to get to fight for that. Most people live their whole lives in this country without the opportunity to say they actually fought for it and they passed it on to the next generation. Yeah, it's a hard time right now, but you have the privilege to fight for this thing, to preserve it. It is possible. And wake up every morning, even if you didn't today, from each day on, wake up every morning and say, you know what? It's an honor to fight for this. And I will just tell you, for me, that was life-changing. I was in a dark place last year. I decided to defy instead of act defensive. And it's completely changed my life, my friend.
It is great stuff, Miles. Again, defiance.org. Sign up tomorrow night starting 7 p.m. It's online, going through, I believe, 11 p.m. And it's counting the State of the Union. I'm going to definitely, my radio show goes till 9, but I'm going to go tune in afterwards. I'm going to send. All right, brother. It's great meeting you. Keep up the great work. And I look forward to chatting with you again in the future.
Hey, Dean, thank you so much, my friend, honestly, for your bravery, your courage, and your consistent defense of real American principles. I admire you, my man.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Have a great day, my friend. Thanks, everyone. Tune in.
Thank you.
Great to have
Thanks,
a great
everyone,
crowd.
for joining.
Have a great day, everyone.